I don't know anyone else that says this, but I think everyone says TikTok has like a shelf life of 18 to 24 months of like organic content. I completely disagree with that. I think TikTok has positioned itself where they're not.
All right, we are live, and I have some guests today that I'm super excited to have because they have an awesome business model, something everybody can learn from, and definitely every business could use. But before we get into that, I would like you to leave a review. Now, I know you're hearing this, and you're probably just going to say, yeah, whatever, I'm going to ignore it, white noise, get to the content. Please stop and take 3 seconds to leave a review. It'll help me out so much. Then I don't have to beg every single episode, and it helps our podcast get out to more people, and then everything's free, so full money refund if you leave a review and you don't like this episode, but I'm sure you're going to love it. So guys, super excited to have you here. I'm going to share really quickly what I think about like how I see your guys' agency, because we've talked a couple times, what I see you guys doing in the market, and then I want you guys to tell me what I got right, what I got wrong, and what I missed out on. So you guys run an agency where you help actually some of the biggest names out there. You guys work with some amazing clients, and you go out and you help them create content for their TikToks, for their reels, and you come in and you actually come in and strategize on what they should talk about. You film the content, you edit the content, I think you post the content, and you make sure that they blow up. And I've personally follow several people that you guys, I've seen you blow up their accounts, and you did everything for them, which is kind of the entrepreneurial dream where, wait, I don't have to do everything myself and I don't have to build this massive team. So what did I get right? What did I get wrong? And what did I leave out?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Gary.
Yeah, first, just want to thank you, Gary, for the kind words. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate
Yeah,
it,
I'll let
man.
Deep go first.
Yeah, you pretty much summarized exactly what we do. That's one of our main offers is pretty much, we strategize, fly to you, shoot all the content, edit it professionally, and post and distribute it. And the only thing I'd say that you missed that we also do is we're really data driven. And so we're actually looking at the analytics and kind of obsessing over what worked and what didn't. Jamey can speak a lot more about that than I can, but basically getting insights and reporting with our clients as well, and doubling down on what's been doing well for them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I find one of the things that I think we have a real nice competitive advantage over is that there's plenty of teams that are out there that are video editing agencies, and that's not what we are. Right. I actually think the secret sauce of what we do is in directing and in strategy. We've put out, I think we're managing somewhere around 700 or 800 posts a month for our clients. And we take all of those pieces of content and use them as data points to understand, hey, like, are we finding patterns within TikTok in particular as to what works? And then if we're finding something that's working, why is that the case? Like, and so you break it down, like, was it the story that we told? Was it the hook that we used? Was the duration of the video wasn't too long? And we try to do that every single month. And recently, one part of our service that we are introducing as of this month to end off Q2 is sending our clients reports on their analytics and why their top 3 or 5 best performing videos and worst, and analyzing why they performed, why they didn't, and giving them what next month's strategy is going to be. So we always have our finger on the pulse with that stuff.
Yeah, I think you guys are really good at that and really getting in and understanding the people that you're working with. That's the one thing I've noticed where I've watched 3 or 4 people that you've posted for, and you've kind of pulled out their uniqueness and helped them. Because one of the things I know that I struggle with is I know all this stuff about marketing, or I know all this stuff about building an agency, but what angle should I take on that? And there's really tons of different angles that you can take. So I know you guys do a good job of that. I want to kind of dive in a little bit into like the business model of this, right? Because for me, standing from the outside, I'm like, if you came to me and said, hey, Gary, would you want to start an agency where you're going and filming all the content, you're coming up with the ideas, you're then posting it, and then you're making it better, I would say, no, absolutely not, because the logistics on that are super hard. So it's really impressive that you guys have been able to figure that out and scale it. So tell me like kind of where you're at team number wise, revenue wise, and then like where you're heading and how you plan on scaling that.
Yeah, so I can kind of hop in on this one. We have a team of about 15 right now, um, and revenue wise, we're doing about 60K a month, hovering around there. And that's Canadian dollars, so that yeah, I will say that that's probably floating around the 50.
I have no idea how much that means in
Yeah,
the US.
exactly. So just caveat there. No, but that's you bring up some really good points there, Gary, when it comes to like obviously the business model. Jamie and I have been obsessing over it and tweaking and adjusting and pivoting all the time. And we've kind of gone back and forth between, running, a more remote model where, everything in our offer is kind of the same as what we discussed before. Everything that you brought up where we film, shoot, edit, whatever. But the only thing that changes there is that we would just have the client send the content to us. And we would still manage everything else the same, and that's what
Mm,
we called our like remote offer, right? And to be quite honest with you, that's the thing that we see
yeah,
scaling, over time, right? That's the thing that we think is kind of
yeah,
the ticket to scale. But at the stage we're at in our agency, quality and client results is more important for us, and we've just found from our experience that we just
mm,
have a lot more control over the quality when we do fly out and shoot the content. Obviously, it has a little bit of an effect on margins and our time. And unfortunately, we don't have a million Jamies that can run around and run that strategy for everyone. So we recognize that the in person, this premium offer that we're running right now, is not the thing that we could do forever, but it is the thing right now that's getting us known, and it's getting us the notoriety, and it's helping us sign
yeah.
people at a lower, more affordable, and easier to systemize and scale offer of remote.
I love that so much. And one of the things that I noticed right away, and that way I'm looking at this model, like the model that you have right now, as you become more connected with the industry, and you guys are already doing a great job, but you're more ingrained with those clients because you're like flying out and meeting them, you know them, so you're building more of a relationship with them,
Yeah.
and so that means over time you're going to be able to charge more for that premium package for the next guy that's going to come in and build that up. And then I agree with you. Like it's really hard when someone else has control of your destiny on marketing. So when they're sending you horrible video and it doesn't work, or horrible audio, and then they're like, now get a ton of views with this. That's really really hard to do. So I love that you guys are building on top of that.
Yeah, and but the thing is too is with the remote offer comes coaching of how to film those videos. And we're even right now putting together little Amazon like shopping lists, like an A, B, and C package of like, hey, if you don't have any camera equipment, this is what we recommend on the lower cost side. This is what we recommend at like a middle, and then if the god tier package, um, which is basically like if you want to have a studio type setup, this is what
It's
it
the
would look
Gary.
like.
It's the Gary
Because one of
setup.
the biggest things that exactly, exactly, because one of the biggest things that and hurdles that we find is like most entrepreneurs aren't content creators, and
Yes.
so we have to actually teach them to become that with the remote offer. Which is why we're doing certain things like from a tactical standpoint. One of the questions that we are asking our clients in our onboarding or in our initial sales process is on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can't answer 7. What is your desire to have a personal brand right now? And for the remote offer, because it requires a lot of work on their end, they have to be willing to show up and shoot themselves. We can only take on people that answer 8 or above,
Yeah.
because if they're below that, they're not going to do the things that we need them to, because it is very much like you work with us. It's not quite a done for you service in full.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one of the things that we're thinking of. But going back to your point a second ago, the beautiful part about the in-person offer is the networking opportunities. Being able to shake the hands of some of the guys that we get to shake hands with,
Yeah.
and knowing Deep and I are very long-term greedy, and just knowing that these relationships that get built and trusted over time are going to open up doors for whatever the next chapter might be 5, 10 years from now, and it's a good launch
Yeah.
pad that I think for the rest of our lives.
I think you guys are getting paid to network right now with people that are going to build your
I
next
agree.
level. Like that's, yeah, that's I mean, and travel. So you're getting paid to travel and network. Like That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you're building it with intention, right? You're not just like out networking saying, "Hey, I want to meet people. This is cool." You're building it with intention, and that's just going to keep compounding, compounding, compounding. I have no question. Now, one thing that I wanted to share with you, just from an entrepreneur mindset, because I'm not a creator, right? It took me about a year and a half to build my setup, and it took me 3 times striking out. So I got the computer, and then I got the camera, and that camera didn't work, so I changed my lighting, and that lighting didn't work with the lighting in the background, so I had to change my background. Then I had to get a new camera, and then I had to do the mic, and I did that cycle 3 or 4 times. And what I finally realized is I have to have a contractor who understands, like, to create this, who understands
Mm.
lighting, who also understands the cameras, and then have it built with the camera and the lighting in mind, with the sound in mind. And I can't do it the other way around. And it took me so much time to strike out. I literally Google searched people who build studios in your house, people who will come and build studios in your house. I could find nothing. There's nothing online for that at the time. This is right after COVID. And it took me about a year and a half. So I really like that you guys are doing that. Walk me through, like, if someone was a creator out there, if someone says, you know what, I got money, but I want to start getting into social media, how would you walk them through that process of building that so they don't have to go through what I went through?
Yeah, so the way that I would look at it is the easiest things to get out of the way are the technical equipment. So that's going to be your camera, your lenses, and your mic. So, I'm a big Sony guy. If you want to go all out, get a Sony A7S III. I always recommend variable lenses so that you can play around with them a little bit more. So something like a 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8, and then I'm big on lav mics because it just gets a little bit closer to your mouth without being distracting. So we use a Tascam DR10L. So that's kind of the equipment list. After that, a lot of it is make sure that you just have studio lights. We're using Neewer 660 LED lights. And then also have some sort of backlighting. So you can get these little lume cubes, and they're just cubes that you can put a gel over, which they're not that expensive, and you shine them up and it creates a blue or a redness in the back. I think it's very difficult to, you know, go out and consult a studio quite like yours, where you need a studio consultant, but we can get somebody set up and looking like the top 0.2% in terms of quality pretty quickly, if with just understanding what the room looks like
And
and
if I
what the
could,
And
budget
then
is.
if I
and then
could
from
jump
there,
in there for a
oh
second,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Gary, like, this is where Jamie and I are a little bit different, right? Because I've been a podcast host for the past few years, and I obsess over the equipment and the aesthetics and the studio and the look of things. It matters almost like, and I'm not proud of this, but it matters more to me than the content itself and the volume of content that I'm putting out. I would rather not put out the podcast and
Yeah.
then do it in a way that doesn't feel right to me. So Jamie knows this. It's like a funny little story, but I bought a house last year, and I wanted to turn the basement into a little studio, and so it took me 3 months to custom build a table because I couldn't find the table with the dimensions I wanted. I wanted it to have the live edge wood, and so I stained it, cut it, did all the stuff. But it's because it was really important to me. I wanted the Shure SM7B microphones because I love the look of them. I love the aesthetic of them. I wanted the right headphones. I wanted to make sure that the cameras, I had 3 of the same camera. Like, all this type of stuff mattered a lot to me. But all that to say, it's the worst advice that I could give a new creator is go do all that. That's what you need to start, because that's just not true. What Jamie said is actually way better, because all you just need is that camera and a microphone and to just start putting out content.
I love that, and that's so true. And now with iPhones, I'm not a camera guy.
Mm.
Like, I have a Canon EOS, but I just got it because someone told me to get it, right. But I've read online, people say, camera guys say, I wish I didn't buy my expensive camera and I just use my iPhone for everything because the quality's so good now, and it's like you can go a long ways with that. The one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about on this particular subject is, so walk me through. So let's say someone's like, okay, I don't have the equipment. I need your help. I don't even want to deal with the headache of buying that equipment. You can help them with that. Now, how do I create content? Because I see all this content online. I see like the different stuff. I have a ton of knowledge in my head as an entrepreneur, but I don't know where to start with the content. Like pretend you just hired, like I just hired you and you're going to help me walk through that.
Yeah, so the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to fill out our onboarding form, and our onboarding form asks you a lot of different questions that myself, as kind of like our chief creative officer, and I do a lot of our strategy, and our other team members can then review. So simple questions like, who do you look up to in your industry? You know, like I want to see the people who you want your content to sound like or to look like. So tag those people. We'll go check them out, see if we can find some patterns. What rare pieces of advice do you have that you're willing to share with people? That gives me a little prompt so that I have a little bit of data that I know about you. What are things that you want to talk about? What are things that people in your industry aren't talking about? We ask questions like this just to get some prompts and an understanding of where they want to go. And then we immediately kick off on a 45 to 60-minute call with myself and our team where we ask them a bunch of questions. We come prepared with 7 to 10 pillars of content, which are themes of which that we could always pull ideas from. And within that hour, we are going to come up with a bare minimum of 30 ideas that we can immediately execute on, and they can start shooting right away.
That's awesome. And so, and that removes a lot of the pressure from me because then you're going to figure out which avenue we should be going down, what avenues are actually going to work and drive back results that I want. What if someone, how do you walk through like the result? Like some people want to be like, just get more attention, right? Understandably so, because they need it to leverage something else. But some people want leads and things like that. How do you like work through that portion with people?
Yeah, so the easiest way to classify that is if you want to grow leads, then you have to niche down further. But if you want to grow brand awareness and attention, then you expand it open. So you expand the total addressable market of who you're trying to talk to. So, for example, like with your business, Gary, you're a dental marketing agency. That's
Yeah.
hyper specific. So you have a very specific targeted group of clients. If you were to start putting out content that was dental marketing advice, you would obviously get dental marketers or dental companies coming to you
Yeah.
all the time, even if you had 100 followers, because it's so specific that you compete against nobody. And so you create yourself as the obvious choice of authority within that space. If your goal is brand awareness and attention, then instead of getting you to talk about like dental marketing, I'm not even going to have you talk about marketing. I'm going to have you talk about just maybe your thoughts on business as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, why being an entrepreneur is so important. That is going to get you a bit more attention from the masses than this dental marketing hack is something that you've never heard of before,
Yeah,
right? Like, so
that's really good advice because lead gen is very specific, right? If you're going to produce a lead, you need to be hyper focused and provide a need to that whatever group. That was a great illustration. And branding is more broad and more wide. And so, do you sometimes do people struggle with that sometimes? Because in my experience in marketing, I have people who come to me who want branding. So they're like, build me this most amazing website and did it. And then I'm like, okay, cool. That's probably not going to produce the best results for you for lead gen. But if you just want branding and want people to feel that way, let's do it. And then they're like, oh, no. I actually want the lead gen. Like, do you have people that kind of teeter on that?
Yeah, no, this is something that we have experienced in the agency. I wouldn't say a lot, but from time to time, we've signed a client in the past who comes in, all they claim that they want is just to build the biggest brand and whatnot. And then we go and we deliver. We do exactly just that. We get them thousands and thousands of followers and a super big brand. And then they turn around at the 3 month mark or whatever, and they're like, yeah, but like, how does this grow my business? It's like, well, but that was not your goal, right? Like your goal was to grow your brand at this time. And if you wanted to grow your business, well, one big pill that Jamey and I have had to swallow and realize is that like we actually now only work with people who have a proven offer and an actual business, right? At the beginning, as you know, because you've dealt with so many
Yeah.
agencies, you take anybody and everyone who's willing to strike a check, right? And so
Yeah.
that was a mistake that we made early on, is not really clearly defining the type of person that we want to work with. And you know, we can still deliver, and we still do deliver everything that we promise. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't have a business and we get them 50,000 followers, they're like, well, how do these followers translate into sales or leads or what have you? It's like, well, you don't have a business. We're not building your business. We're building your brand. And that's, yeah, it's one of those lessons that I think a lot of agency owners learn the hard way.
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie. I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I was gonna completely agree. I mean, we had that experience very recently, and it's one of those things because I believe on a long enough time horizon, building your brand is the best lead gen thing that there is, right? And so if so long as you have an easy offer to give people, even if you Gary go ultra wide and was like, I'm gonna talk. One of my pillars is about parenting, which I've seen you post a little bit. That's much wider than what you could
Yeah.
make your
Yep.
niche, right? But if you became like the parenting busy entrepreneur guy of TikTok, that's like a very wide market. And if you say got yourself to 500,000 followers, you're going to get dental marketing clients.
Yeah.
Because what happens is by building your brand, people fall in love with you and your personality, and they will figure out ways to work with you. It,
Mm.
it becomes the easiest form of inbound leads. But a lot of people, and that's why we have that question that we asked earlier. If you are not set on the value of personal branding, you will not see its value because you will look at it as a short-term play as opposed to, a 5, 10 year timeline where you could really change your life in every manifestation possible by, putting yourself out there just a little bit more. It's not I think kind of just the way I'm trying to summarize it is ultimately if people are very sales driven, they might look at short term metrics, but if
Yeah.
people are brand driven, they'll look at the whole scope on a long term like time
So I'm gonna
horizon.
I'm gonna flip this on its head. So I totally agree with you. Like I could go wide with like parenting, right? But that might be uncomfortable for me. Like I don't want to be the parenting guy, right? And there, it might, sure, it might benefit me long term, but a lot of work, content that I probably wouldn't really enjoy creating, and wouldn't serve me. The way that I would want it to serve me. But then on the flip side of that, the opposite of that, there's all these creators out there that make content that looks like they love that they're creating, but they don't have that entrepreneurial section tied to it, and they have millions of followers. I've met people who reach out to me, and I'm like, what's up? They're like, I got 2 million followers on TikTok or whatever, and I'm like, and they're like doing these side gigs just to make money because they haven't figured out how to monetize it yet. What are your thoughts on, like? I know you guys, that's not your like target audience, but what are your thoughts with people like that? Because I almost feel bad. I'm like, man, we need to figure out how to monetize this for you. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people like that. What's your thoughts on that, like that market?
I think large creators that are struggling with growing the business side of their brand have two choices. Clearly, if you've built yourself up to over 1 million followers on TikTok or any platform, you have a very, very top end skill set. And that skill set is rare. And the easiest way for you to monetize that is to sell that skill set to other people because so few people in the world have done what you've done at that point. So
Yeah.
immediately you have a great case study of, hey, I built my brand to 1 million plus followers. Imagine if it's 5 million. I'm going to take you on. And even if we get you a fraction of that, your business is going to explode. I think that's the easiest way and the easiest path for somebody to do that. The problem is even though the idea is easy to initially start, it's very difficult to execute on long term. I
Yeah.
think what a lot of creators need to do is really understand the economics of the creator economy. You need to understand like what your brand value is so that you can get brand deals. You need to understand how many different streams of income can I build for myself that can make me at least a couple $1,000s a month? And if one of them drops, I'm still okay. You kind of protect yourself through diversification. That could be through merch. Coaching is a great one because coaching is just you can do one-on-one coaching or group coaching, and then it's just a little bit of time for money. You could also sell courses and products, all those things and brand deals. If you have all of those as income streams, you're going to be okay. But I think a lot of creators just really need to focus on educating themselves on finances educating
Yep.
themselves on basic business principles, because too often am I seeing creators that are extremely talented at getting attention but have no clue how to what to do with the attention afterwards.
Deep, I got a question for you on this. So I'm the same question, but a little bit more on the more on the business side of it. So what I've noticed is like creators are more artistic, right? So think of like an artist that paints a picture, or think of somebody who plays a guitar and makes music, right? So creators are usually more on that artistic side, which makes you less on the business side, because the business side is more strategic and math and things like that, right? And then there's people on that spectrum, right? There's people in between and those kind of things. So how? Because what you just said, Jamie, is very true, right? But that's all business stuff, right? And it's for
Mm.
an artistic person. There's people out there that can paint beautiful pictures, but they can't sell them because they're great artists, but they're not great at producing, selling that painting. So Deep, like, what are you? I know we've talked about this before. Deep, what are your thoughts on that, like business versus artistic side of things?
Yeah, so as someone who kind of started off as more of a creator, I was all in on the podcast. I had a bunch of amazing guests on the show, and I was fully in on creating this thing. I felt this FOMO and almost jealousy while working my 9 to 5 job, seeing all these people do all these cool things, and I'm just like, well, why can't I do that? Well, because the podcast is not producing any money. And so I had to have this conversation with myself and figure out, well, I guess I should probably start some kind of business so that I can continue doing this creator thing. And long story short on that, I found that you can't flex both muscles at the exact same time. Some things do have to take a bit of a
Mm,
back seat in the spirit of building something that's bigger than just the creative endeavor, right? The piece of art, if you will, right? I've always struggled doing both at the same time, full tilt. I've always had to pull back and then go hard and then step back a little bit from the podcast, but then go all in on the business. Then okay, got enough systems in place. I bought a few hours back in my week through hiring an editor, hiring someone to do this, that, and the other thing. Okay, cool. Now I can go back on the
mm,
creative. All right. And it's a wave, right? And just like you mentioned, it's a spectrum. But I think one of the biggest things that people are finding now in this creator economy is that you can do both, but you need help. You can't do it all alone. And so what I've always been very good at doing is finding people around me. And I fully indexed on this route. I learned very early on by like episode 3 of my podcast that okay, I can edit. I taught myself how to edit on YouTube, but I suck at it and I hate every minute of it. Let me hire my brother to edit for me, and then I have more time to do this, which is what I really enjoy. And now my brother works for Deep Social, and he's became one of our superstar editors, right? So I've always found that to me, I just want to buy more back of my time, and then that gives me more options, and then I can go all in on the creative later when I have more time and options. Other people kind of flip that on its head and they go all in on the creative, just like you were mentioning, and they build this massive brand, but now they have no business sense. They don't even know how to negotiate a paid post on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. And to those people, what I would recommend, and I joke with Jamie all the time, there's a huge opportunity for an agency to be the connector between brands and creators right now. And there's only a few that I know out
mm.
there that have even started doing something
Yeah.
like this, but there's a major, major gap. And I joke with Jamie all the time. I'm like, if we found an agency that did that and is able to do that at a reasonable price on some kind of retainer or percentage or something like that, I want to buy that agency and offer that as an upsell for our services, because
Yeah.
it literally makes it directly ROI positive working with deep social brands, right? Not only are you paying to make beautiful, amazing content that's blowing up organically, but it's self-sustaining.
That's amazing. Yeah, that I think that's a huge opportunity. And one of the things you said there is that I think this is why a lot of people struggle is that you have to be self-aware. And one of the things that I learned in business was, and this is actually one of our core, we made it one of our core values in the company, that if you want to work with SMC, you need to be self-aware, is that you have to learn what you like and what you don't like. And if you can't articulate, and I've noticed the younger, usually people, not all people, but usually as you get older, you start to figure that out. But when you're 18, 19 years old, it's really hard to know what you want to. You're just like, I just want followers on TikTok, or I just want a big business.
Yeah.
You have no idea what you don't know, and then you start to go through and you start to learn. You know what? I don't like this. And one of the lessons that I actually had a coach teach me this. They said, "Okay, Gary, today I want you to write down all the things that you did as you're working. What do you hate, and then what do you love?" And just I would sit there and I'd be like, I hate this. I don't ever want to do this again, right? And I hate this. I don't want to do this part of it and this part. And then I brought him back the list, and I said, I hate doing all this stuff. They said, okay, give that to somebody else. And then now let's just go do all the stuff that you love. And then you do that for a while, and then about a month or two later, all right, do it again. And you slowly but surely you find what you're actually built to do
Absolutely.
by subconsciously, right? Because you can just tell, like, this really slows me down. This really makes me excited.
Yeah.
And it changes over time. That's one thing for me. I used to say, man, if I could just do sales all day, I'd be really happy. Or if I could just do account management, or if I could just manage people, I'd be really excited. None of those were really the thing I wanted to do. I just wanted to figure those out.
Right.
And I think that's part of the entrepreneur journey, is figuring it out. But you don't have to live there forever. And I think that's why people get burnt out too. Jamey, where's like your like happy place where you like to live on that spectrum?
Yeah, I think I'm a natural born creator with business tendencies, and I think Deepak is a natural born entrepreneur with creative tendencies.
Yeah.
And so for me, and Deep's not like this, but I love to edit. Like I just do. I'm a weird guy. I enjoy that process. So with me, I'm really in my happy place when I'm making content. But I'm also even more in my happy place, which is where I'm at now, when I teach other people how to make content and teach our team how to understand the things the way that I do. And I see our team execute on maybe some of the trainings that I've had, and we still get results. That's what I'm really proud of and focused on at this chapter of my life. Maybe after doing this for a year, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, I want to do something different. But I think it is important to be, like you're saying, self aware as an entrepreneur. And one of the parts of being self aware is understanding that I think as an entrepreneur, you're supposed to have chapters. If you're doing the
Yeah.
same thing in your company for 5 years in a row, I actually think it's a major, major problem. So my current chapter is just it's training other people how to understand social media content and strategy better, and watching them flourish. That's what I get the biggest high out of.
So it totally makes sense that you two are kind of like bookends of each other, right? And that's kind of how I saw it. If you made me guess, I would have guessed what you just said there. Deep, how do you guys deal with it? Like when you guys don't agree on something, how do you, as a business owners, it happens, right? You're like, I think we should go right. I think we should go left. How do you guys sort through that?
So funny enough, last year there was a point after I mentioned I bought a house and I didn't have much of a plan going into it. When I bought this crib, 3 bedroom house in the suburbs of the city that we're from in Canada, and I didn't have anyone to rent it out or anything. So I go to Jamey one day, and I was like, "Dude, could you move in with me? I promise you, we will build the number one agency on the planet. Let's put this 6 months, put our heads together and build this thing, right?" And he agreed. And so we lived together, and every single day, impromptu meetings, social things where we'd have people over. We're still working on business. Jamey would be sitting in the corner on his laptop editing. I'd be playing beer pong with some friends, but still talking strategy and business and stuff. But the biggest thing, Gary, that when Jamey and I disagree on something, or even really agree on something like a little too much, we pull out the whiteboard. So we bought just this normal whiteboard from Staples or whatever, and we were both very visual in that sense, and we would just whiteboard out whatever is on our mind, and pros and cons, processes, all kinds of different things. We would always put it on the whiteboard, and we always kind of deferred. It's like our third business partner, right? The whiteboard kind of solves those problems, and generally speaking, Jamey and I, we don't disagree on that much because we're macro on the same, we're just in the same direction all the time. Micro, we couldn't be any more different in terms of like who we are as people day to day, right? But That's fine. That it should be that way. And when there are big major disagreements in the business, we just talk it out like adults. We're big on communication, and half of the year at least we're living with each other. So it's like I'm not going to have a major big blow up with a guy who like I'm going to be sitting on the couch watching Netflix within an hour, right?
Yeah, yeah. What do you think
Yeah,
of
I
that,
also
Jamie?
don't think I don't think Deep and I disagree on much. And the things that we disagree on are extraordinarily minor. Anything that's
Yeah,
been major in our company, a major decision that we've had to make, if the only type of disagreement it is, it's I don't have an opinion yet. So Deep present it to me what your thoughts are, and then I end up agreeing. Like
yeah,
sometimes I'm just neutral. I'm Switzerland, and
Yeah.
then Deep's like, I really want to make this decision, and that's happened many times. We've let go of clients.
I'm a little bit more of the aggressor in these types of
Mm.
situations, just naturally. Like, it's just always been my personality growing up playing sports and always being like a little bit more in like a leadership position. I'm always down to make a decision. Whether it's the right call or not, I want to make a call. And that's
yeah.
that's just always how I've been.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
And what are your guys' thoughts right now? Because TikTok's changed a couple times over the last 6 months or 12 months. Where you guys see the TikTok trends heading right now from a creative standpoint?
I'm so happy you asked this question because I have a very unpopular opinion. I don't think TikTok's changed at all. At all. I think it's the only difference. I don't think the algorithm has changed. People always say, like, oh, like they're rewarding certain types of content. The algorithm doesn't change. People's interests do, right? Like culture changes. And so the algorithm is just responding to what happens in culture. So when the cultural identity of what people want to see changes, it's not TikTok pushing it. It's just TikTok rewards what people are actually watching. And so I actually have I don't know anyone else that says this, but I think everyone says TikTok has like a shelf life of 18 to 24 months of like organic content. I completely disagree with that. I think TikTok has positioned itself where they're not a social media platform. TikTok is an entertainment platform, is a place just like the television where you tune in to
Agreed.
become entertained. There's a reason why the comment section has such a minimal character limit because they don't want conversation. There's a reason why the DM product sucks because
Yeah, the
they don't
DM
really
is
want you.
broken. Yeah,
Yeah, they don't want you to DM. They just want you to be entertained. Instagram and Facebook spent years really pushing ads. They wanted you to put money behind your content, put your wallet into the content so that you could then be seen by more eyeballs. TikTok took so much of their market share by doing the opposite. And what eventually happened is creators went over to TikTok because they're like, I finally have the opportunity to grow my brand on a place where I don't have to put dollars in. Which, when more talented creators do that, the quality of the content goes up on the platform, which brings
mm,
in more attention, more eyeballs, and more consumers. So by being organic, TikTok stole Instagram's audience and
yeah,
Facebook's audience and all these other platforms. So why would they go down the route of ads? If you look at their ad product, it's not that well thought out. They
yeah.
don't give you a whole lot of data on purpose. There's no such thing as a multi-billion dollar company that accidentally doesn't give you the analytics you're looking for.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
I think the trend of TikTok is it's just going to keep having a pulse on culture. And I think the organic potential is always going to be there for at least the next like 4 or 5 years. I genuinely believe that. And I think that's the reason because ultimately, like the only form of competition that there's going to be on the app is just more people competing in the same niche. And
yeah.
so that's why it gets a bit harder over time to grow, is because there's just more people creating in your space. So you have to stand out differently. But yeah, the trend for it for me is just growth.
It's interesting because, and just to prove your point that it is entertainment, try to watch a TikTok and send a text message at the same time. What happens? You have to turn off. TikTok makes you turn it off. I can watch a YouTube video. I can keep scrolling on Facebook. I can do all these different things and do other things at the same time. But I can't watch TikTok and do anything else. It makes me pay attention. It would be like watching a TV show and anytime your eyes took off the TV show, that the TV show turned off,
Mm.
right? Like that's how TikTok has designed itself, and that's proof that it is a entertainment platform that they want you fully engaged and only engaged in that, and not as a passive thing, which is much different than radio and television and even Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media platform.
Yeah, all these competing platforms are focused on being social first, whereas TikTok is focused on being attention first, and
Yeah.
that's why people grow so quickly on it. But the trick with it is if you're a creator, you have to understand that it's the easiest place to get eyeballs and attention, but it's not the easiest place to engage with your audience. So you may have to use other places like what you do with Discord to build that relationship with your truest and most loyal fans, because then you can be more intimate with them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Here's another question. So right now, so everybody's attention spans are shrinking. I don't think people would argue with that. And I think you guys do a great job of designing videos in a way that like cut out all the fat, get right to the point, have a certain kind of font, a certain way of presenting this truth. And that if you present it in a different way, it might not get traction because it's a little more boring or not engaging. What happens? This is my mindset, and I would love your guys' expert opinion on it. Anytime something's successful, people copy it. So now everybody's making these videos, and they're much shorter, and they're much cut down. What happens when everybody starts doing that same thing, and that becomes more white noise? Is there a next thing that's going to come behind that, or where do you guys kind of see things moving towards?
Yeah, so I think the answer to that question really comes down to, you know, people on TikTok can copy how other people edit. They can copy how the videos are shot. They could copy all the details of how the content is created. But what you can't copy and what's very difficult to like do is the psychological tricks and manipulation that you can add into your content, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to understand human behavior and you
Mm.
have to put the consumer and the audience first before you start shooting. And that is something that most creators aren't doing. That's something most brands aren't doing. You need to be so focused on what does the other person behind the phone feel.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. So
if
tell
and
tell me
those
that.
are
So pretend. So like, tell me like what's the psychological tricks? You can't say psychological tricks, and then like I want
okay,
to know what the
perfect.
psychological tricks are.
Perfect. So I think the most common framework that everybody understands in terms of social media content is hook, meet, which is just the value you provide in a call to action. So that's an easy framework to copy. But when you look at a hook, well, what makes a good hook?
Hmm.
And what's the purpose of a good hook? The purpose of a good hook is to engage your curiosity so strong in the first 3 to 5 seconds that there is an incentive to watch the entire video, that you are so curious as to what's coming up that no matter how deep you get into the meat, you will still watch it to the end. That's what a good hook will do. So, how do you structure that? Well, what you do is you have to identify two things. You have to identify the community that you're speaking to, and you also have to identify what the value they're going to receive. And if you can add just even like a point of curiosity in there, it's really going to do the best job. I'll give you an example. When I was in Ottawa and I was making my personal brand originally, I was going on all these adventures and I was showing the best hikes, waterfalls, and restaurants in and around my city. And I would say things like this: I bet you've never heard about this incredible waterfall just outside of Ottawa. So, what I do in a hook like that, by saying just outside of Ottawa, I'm identifying my community. People that live in Tokyo are not going to find this valuable, and I don't want them to see it. So I've made it super clear who my target audience is. By starting it with, I bet you've never heard of this, I'm engaging and like, they're like, wait, what the heck is he gonna say type curiosity. I want to challenge their thinking. And when I say waterfall, I'm providing them with the value that they're about to receive.
Hmm.
So I did the three things. I engaged their curiosity, which is the most important thing. I told them what the value they're about to receive is, and I identified who my audience and my target group is. You can apply that to any niche, you can apply that to any business, but you need to figure out ways to engage curiosity in the first couple seconds. There's plenty of more little hacks like that
Yeah.
that I could go into, but that's
It's
the
almost
easy
like
one.
you do this for a living.
It's almost like I've been doing this for 2 years every single day. And I started making viral content like 10 years ago with memes and would study how the
No
memes
way.
performed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you were building memes like early on, and that's where you kind of learned like, okay, this is how I trigger a reaction.
Yes. So I started in 2012 a mountain biking meme page. And when I was in high
So
school, I was
niche.
building this page out with like my best friends. And by the end of high school, after a year and a half, we were the largest mountain biking community on Facebook. And we were being shared by Red Bull and Pink Bike, which is like the Facebook of mountain biking, and had like these major publications sharing our content. And I remember thinking like, how do I make these memes better? And I was like, oh, if I make them more relatable. So I was a viral student before I was a content creator and before I learned video. And then I realized I kind of just put those two skills together later on in life.
That's so cool. Deep,
Mm.
anything that I forgot to ask you guys, Deep, any questions or any perspective that you feel like would be useful to the audience in what you guys are building?
No, not really, Gary. I think you hit all the amazing points. I do think that, when it comes to building an agency, there's one thing that when you're kind of talking about that, what are the things you hate and what are the things you like to do? I will say that I've taken that like very, very extreme and very like I'm practicing this every single day, and it's making my life so much better incrementally every day. When Jamie and I moved here to Miami, I mean, I started complaining that like, well, I have to do laundry, and we got a laundry machine, and I'm like, well, then I gotta like take it out and then I put it in the dryer and get the soap and do all this stuff. And then I found a place that picks up your laundry, does it, folds it, and then drops it off. And I'm like, cool, I'm gonna do that. We were eating out every single day when we moved here. I was like, I'm getting fat and I don't feel good. I don't like this. So got a meal prep service, right? Um, I just keep going with that. Just so many more things. Like, instead of getting a car and driving around, you have Ubers. Eventually one day maybe I'll have a private chef. But that's something that I would want to leave with entrepreneurs who are starting, above 30K a month, and you can kind of afford a few of these things. Buy back your time however you can, because that's one thing I would stress really hard. And then one last point on that is like, once you've bought back your time, don't just use it to do dumb stuff. Fill that time up with other high leverage things that are going to let you buy back more of your time.
Bro, I'm gonna literally get a T-shirt with that with your face on it, and it says, "When you buy back your time, don't use your free time to do dumb stuff." It's so true, because you can make yourself miserable again if you make the wrong steps.
Yeah.
Who would you guys think would be who's an agency owner or a founder that would be useful to come on this podcast? Any names that could pop into your head?
Hayden Cashin, has he been
Gotta
on?
be my boy Hayden. You gotta,
Yeah.
I
yeah, you
actually
gotta
have the
have
prep
Hayden.
sheet for Hayden right here. I literally have the prep sheet for Hayden right here, and I don't know what happened, so I need to get him on. Okay, I'm gonna get him on. So maybe shoot him a
Him and
DM for me. And
Mike,
I
Hayden
what
Cashin.
was that?
Mike Rama as well.
I got one more. Phil
Mike.
Rivers.
Okay, cool. Connect me with Mike. I don't think I know Mike. Oh yeah,
Mm.
we've been talking. Yeah, I love him. He's a really smart marketer. That's
Yeah.
great, guys. How can people, if you're listening to this, obviously you can go try to figure out the whole space yourself, edit all your own stuff, do it the stupid way like I did, build your own studio, take 2 years to do it, or you can talk to these guys and get it done in the next month. How do they reach out to you guys? How do they connect with you guys if someone's listening and wants help with their content?
Really easy. They just head over to deepsocialbrands.com or find one of us on social media at for me it's at deepaksharma.co, and Jamie, you can.
Yeah, and mine is at James Lifee, life ending with an extra E. I would make it Jamie, but the reason it's not is because people always spell my name wrong. So I wanted
That's awesome.
something people wouldn't screw up.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
You
Gary.
guys did an awesome job today. Thanks so much for coming on.
You're the man.